The breaking point Captain Marcus Vale stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The massive chamber buzzed with alien voices, speaking in dozens of languages, their translation devices creating a symphony of confusion. For 3 decades, humanity had tried to follow the endless rules and regulations that governed this supposedly enlightened civilization. The Zephyrine delegate, its crystalline form shimmering with disapproval, spoke first. Once again, the humans have violated Section 47C of the Exploration Protocols. Their survey teams continue to venture beyond the designated boundaries. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Those boundaries had been drawn by species who feared competition, who preferred the safety of known space to the thrill of discovery. The human colony ship Endeavour had found 3 habitable worlds in the restricted zone, worlds that could house millions of refugees from the overcrowded Earth sectors. "We followed proper survey procedures," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the frustration building inside him. "Our teams documented everything, shared the data freely, and ensured no interference with existing ecosystems." The Vorthan representative, a massive creature with 6 arms and eyes like black diamonds, rumbled its displeasure. "The issue is not procedure, human. The issue is compliance. Every species must follow the same rules or chaos follows." Marcus looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. The Zephyrines, who had destroyed their own moon in a mining accident centuries ago. The Vorthans, whose rigid caste system had prevented scientific advancement for millennia. The Kethera, who had never left their home system until the Council dragged them into space. "Maybe," Marcus said quietly. "Chaos is exactly what this galaxy needs." The chamber fell silent. Even the translation devices seemed to pause, uncertain. How to process such heresy? Marcus straightened his shoulders. "For 30 years, we've tried to fit into your perfect little system. We've slowed our expansion, limited our research, and ignored our instincts. We've watched pirates raid shipping lanes while you debated jurisdiction. We've seen entire colonies go dark while you formed committees to discuss response protocols." The Zephyrine delegate's form flickered with agitation. Order must be maintained. The alternative is war, destruction, the collapse of civilization itself. "Your civilization," Marcus replied, "not ours." He reached into his uniform and withdrew a sealed document. The paper crackled in the chamber's artificial atmosphere as he unfolded it. "By unanimous vote of the Human Colonial Assembly, Earth and all its territories formally withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in their native tongues, translation devices sparked and smoked from overload, and security drones buzzed frantically overhead. But Marcus Vale simply folded the document, placed it on the central podium, and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the Vorthan delegate's voice boomed over the din. "You cannot survive alone in this galaxy, humans. You will come crawling back within a year." Marcus paused at the threshold and looked back one final time. "We'll see about that." The silence that followed, 3 months after humanity's dramatic exit from the Council, the galaxy felt different. Admiral Kestor Vane of the Kethera Defense Fleet noticed it first during a routine patrol near the Outer Rim. The usual chatter of human merchant vessels had vanished from the communication channels. Trade routes that had bustled with Terran cargo ships now lay eerily quiet. Where did they all go? Asked Lieutenant Jorik, his young face pressed against the viewport of their cruiser. Cass didn't answer immediately. She had fought alongside human Marines during the Darken Rebellion, watched them charge into hopeless battles with nothing but determination and outdated weapons. They had saved her life twice, and she had never forgotten the fierce loyalty burning in their eyes. "They went home," she said finally. "The question is what they're planning next." Back at Council headquarters, the bureaucrats tried to maintain business as usual. The Zephyrian Commerce Minister assured everyone that human withdrawal would barely affect galactic trade. The Vorthan military advisor proclaimed that their defense grid was stronger without human unpredictability. But the numbers told a different story. Shipping costs had increased by 30%. The human freight companies had been the backbone of interstellar commerce, their captains willing to take risks that other species avoided. Now, cargo sat in warehouses while conservative alien pilots refused to navigate dangerous sectors. Dr. Nexus Kane, the Council's chief xenobiologist, spent his days analyzing reports from deep space monitoring stations. The data showed something unprecedented. Human vessels had simply vanished from tracked space. Not destroyed, not captured, just gone. As if an entire civilization had decided to become invisible. "It's impossible," he muttered to his assistant, a nervous Zephyrian named Flux. "You can't hide an entire species. There should be heat signatures, engine trails, communication leaks." But the sensors showed nothing. The humans had developed technologies the Council had never approved, innovations that broke the comfortable rules of galactic society. Stealth systems, quantum communicators, engines that left no detectable trace. They had been preparing for this day longer than anyone realized. Meanwhile, in the forgotten corners of the galaxy, strange things began to happen. The mining station on Kepler 442b, which had been sending distress signals for weeks, suddenly went silent. When rescue teams arrived, they found the facility fully operational, its automated systems humming with efficiency. The miners were safe, well-fed, and utterly confused about who had repaired their life support systems. Similar incidents occurred across dozens of systems. Derelict ships found their way back to port under mysterious circumstances. Stranded colonists discovered supply, caches that hadn't been there the day before. Pirates who had terrorized the shipping lanes for years simply disappeared. Their ships found drifting empty with no sign of struggle. The Council's intelligence services worked frantically to track these interventions, but their investigations led nowhere. No human signatures, no recognizable technology, no demands for payment or recognition. It was as if guardian angels had decided to patrol the galaxy, invisible and untraceable. Senator Vex Morton of the Vorthan High Command slammed his fist on the conference table. "This is intolerable. They mock us with their absence. They ignore our authority while secretly interfering in Council affairs." "What affairs?" asked Dr. Kane quietly. "Our shipping runs? Our security patrols? Our rescue operations?" He gestured to the holographic display showing incident reports. "These are all problems we failed to solve ourselves." The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Without human participation, the Council's effectiveness had plummeted. Their cautious approach to everything from trade disputes to emergency response had been barely adequate when supplemented by human initiative. Now, those same careful procedures seemed painfully inadequate. As the months passed, a disturbing realization crept through the corridors of power. The galaxy hadn't been managing humanity at all. Humanity had been managing the galaxy, and now they were gone. Ghost Fleet Rising Captain Zara Okafor stood on the bridge of the Nighthawk, watching the stars bend and twist through the viewport as they dropped out of hyperspace. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, combining salvaged Council technology with innovations that would have been impossible under the old restrictions. Its hull was coated with metamaterials that bent light around it, making it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. "Approaching the Sigma Centauri system," reported her navigator, Lieutenant Ben Novak. "No Council vessels detected." Zara nodded. The Sigma system had been on the Council's restricted list for decades, marked as too dangerous for colonization due to unstable stellar radiation. But human scientists had developed shielding technology that turned those deadly energy storms into a power source. Now, 3 thriving colonies orbited the twin stars, their populations growing by thousands each month. "Ma'am," called out Chief Petty Officer Liu from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Phoenix Station." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Commander Jake Morrison, one of the architects of humanity's great exodus. His eyes held the weight of impossible decisions and the fire of absolute determination. "Zara, we have a situation in the Kepler sector. A Zephyrian science vessel has gone missing near the Void Nebula. Their distress beacon went active 6 hours ago." Zara frowned. The Void Nebula was a region of space where normal physics seemed to break down, where ships vanished without explanation and time itself moved differently. The Council had declared it off limits after losing 2 exploration fleets, but human vessels had been secretly mapping it for months. "Sir, that's Council territory. We're not supposed to be there." Morrison's expression didn't change. "Since when do humans let bureaucracy decide who lives and who dies?" It was a rhetorical question, and they both knew it. The unofficial code that had emerged among the scattered human fleets was simple. No one gets left behind, regardless of species or politics. It was a principle that had driven humanity to the stars, and it wouldn't change now. "Understood, sir. We're moving to intercept." The Nighthawk accelerated toward the nebula, its experimental engines pushing the boundaries of known physics. Around them, space itself seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy that made the crew's skin tingle. As they penetrated the nebula's outer layers, their instruments began to behave strangely. "I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies," reported Novak, his voice tight with concentration. "It's like space-time is folded in on itself." There, Zara pointed to a section of the nebula where the swirling gases formed an almost perfect spiral. "That's where they are." The Zephyrian vessel, a sleek research ship called the Crystalline Mind, hung motionless in the eye of the energy storm. Its hull was intact, but all its systems appeared to be offline. As the Nighthawk approached, they could see the ship's crew through the viewports, apparently unconscious at their stations. "The temporal field is affecting their neural patterns," explained Dr. Rachel Stone, the ship's physicist. "They're caught in a time loop, experiencing the same moment over and over." Zara had seen this before in the deeper regions of the nebula. The phenomenon was one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries, a region where the laws of physics seemed to have been written by a mad god. But human scientists had developed a theory about its true nature. "Begin extraction procedures," she ordered. "Full shielding, quantum stabilizers online." The rescue operation took 3 hours of delicate maneuvering. The Nighthawk's crew worked with practiced efficiency, using technology that the Council would have considered impossible. They deployed temporal anchor points, created stable corridors through the chaotic spacetime, and gradually extracted the Zephyrian vessel from its prison dot as the rescued ship's crew slowly regained consciousness. Their leader, a being of living, crystal named Resonance, gazed at their human rescuers with something approaching wonder. "You came for us," Resonance said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "But why? We are not your people. We spoke against you in the council chambers." Zara removed her helmet, revealing a face scarred by years of dangerous exploration. "That's exactly why we came, because someone had to." The Zephyrian considered this, its crystalline form flickering with complex emotions. "The Council believes you have abandoned civilization. They say you have become pirates and raiders, caring only for yourselves. The Council can believe whatever. Helps them sleep at night," Zara replied. "We know who we are." As the 2 ships prepared to part ways, Resonance transmitted a final message. "The galaxy speaks of ghost fleets, of invisible guardians who appear when hope is lost. They say humans have become myths, legends whispered in the dark, but I have seen the truth. You have not abandoned us. You have simply stopped asking permission to help." The Nighthawk vanished back into hyperspace, leaving no trace of its passage. But throughout the galaxy, word began to spread. The humans were still out there, watching, waiting, ready to act when civilization failed to live up to its own ideals. The reckoning, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the deepest hours of the night cycle. Its members called from sleep by crisis reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The great chamber, usually a monument to order and deliberation, now buzzed with barely controlled panic. Chancellor Vex Morden's 6 arms trembled as he read the latest intelligence reports. The Dominion fleet is 3 days out from the Kepler colonies, 47 warships, including 2 dreadnoughts. They're moving to claim the entire sector. The Dominion was everything the Council feared, a militaristic empire that had existed beyond the galaxy's edge for centuries. Their ships were powerful, their warriors ruthless, and their technology decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. For years, they had been content to raid the outer systems, taking what they wanted and disappearing back into the void. But now they were coming in force, and the Council's response had been predictably bureaucratic. 3 committees had been formed to study the threat. 2 subcommittees had been established to coordinate the response, and exactly 0 warships had been dispatched to defend the colonies. "The Kepler system has a population of 12 million, said Dr. Nexus Kane, his voice hollow with despair. "Our nearest fleet won't arrive for 8 days. By then, there won't be anyone left to save." Senator Flux of the Zephyrian Assembly stood, her crystalline form shimmering with agitation. "We could attempt to negotiate with the Dominion, perhaps offer them tribute in exchange for sparing the colonies." "Tribute?" growled General Corex of the Vorthan Defense Corps. "You want to reward their aggression? That will only encourage more attacks." The debate that followed was all too familiar. The same circular arguments, the same procedural delays, the same careful consideration of every possible angle, except the one that mattered most. People were going to die while they talked. Dr. Kane watched the proceedings with growing disgust. He had spent his entire career believing in the Council's mission, in the idea that civilization required order and consensus. But as he listened to his colleagues debate the precise wording of a strongly worded diplomatic protest, he realized the horrible truth. The Council had become everything it claimed to oppose. Paralyzed by bureaucracy, crippled by indecision, and utterly unable to act when action was needed most. They had created a system so concerned with process that it had forgotten its purpose. "Enough," he said quietly. The chamber continued its debate, voices rising in futile argument. "Enough," he shouted, his voice echoing through the vast space. The assembly fell silent, shocked by the mild-mannered scientist's outburst. 12 million people, Kane said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. 12 million souls who trusted us to protect them. And what are we doing? We're debating committee structures while their children prepare to die. Chancellor Morden's form bristled with authority. "Dr. Kane, you are out of order. We must follow proper procedures." "Proper procedures?" Kane laughed bitterly. "Is there a proper procedure for genocide? A committee protocol for watching civilization burn?" He turned to address the entire assembly. "We drove the humans away because we feared their chaos, their unpredictability, their refusal to follow our rules. But maybe chaos is exactly what we need. Maybe the galaxy doesn't need more committees. Maybe it needs someone willing to act." The chamber erupted in angry voices, but Kane was already walking toward the exit. He had made his choice, and for the first time in years, he felt truly free. 6 hours later, he stood on the bridge of a commandeered courier ship, transmitting on frequencies that hadn't been used in months. The message was simple: broadcast on all human emergency channels. Kepler system under attack. Dominion fleet inbound. 12 million civilians need immediate evacuation or protection. The response came faster than he had dared hope. Not from one ship, but from dozens. Ghost signals materialized on his sensors as the invisible human fleet revealed itself. Ships that had been legends, myths whispered in spaceport bars, suddenly became real. The new order, the aftermath of the Battle of Kepler, rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave. The Dominion fleet, 47 ships of war that had never known defeat, limped back to the outer darkness with half their number destroyed, and there, confidence shattered. The human shadow fleet had appeared from nowhere, fought with impossible coordination, and vanished again before anyone could properly study their tactics. But the real victory wasn't military. It was the moment when 12 million colonists, people of 17 different species, looked up at the stars and realized that someone had come to save them. Not because of treaties or trade agreements or political calculations, but simply because it was the right thing to do. Dr. Nexus Kane stood in the ruins of the council chamber, watching maintenance crews sweep up the debris from the riot that had followed his testimony. The carefully ordered seats lay overturned. The great seal of galactic unity cracked down the middle, and the translation devices sparked fitfully in the artificial twilight. "It's over, isn't it?" asked Senator Flux, her crystalline form dim. With exhaustion, Kane nodded. "The old order?" "Yes. The Council as we knew, it died the moment we chose procedure over people. One by one, the member species had withdrawn from the Council. Not in dramatic speeches or grand gestures, but in quiet. Recognition that the institution had failed its most basic purpose. The Kethra Defense Fleet had been the first to leave, their Admiral Torvain citing irreconcilable differences in operational philosophy. The Zephyrian Assembly had followed, then the Vorthan High Command, until only a handful of delegates remained in the vast empty chamber. But something new was taking shape in the darkness between stars. Ships that had once flown under dozens of different flags now worked together with seamless cooperation. The invisible human fleet had become visible, not through conquest or demand, but through invitation. Species that had never trusted each other found themselves following human captains into battles they couldn't win, confident that somehow, impossibly, they would find a way. Captain Zara Okafor reviewed the latest reports from her new command. Stationed aboard the Harmony, a massive vessel that had begun life as a human carrier, but now housed crews from across the galaxy. The ship's corridors buzzed with a dozen different languages. Its mess halls served food from 100 worlds, and its engineering sections hummed with technologies that merged the best innovations of every species aboard. Status report. She called to her diverse bridge crew. "Kepler system secure," reported Commander Resonance, the Zephyrian who had been rescued from the Void Nebula months earlier. "Colonist relocation complete. No Dominion activity detected in the outer sectors." The Vorthan supply convoy reached the Antares colonies ahead of schedule, added Lieutenant Commander Kes Torvain, the Kethera Admiral, who had given up her rank to serve as a line officer in the new fleet. Their medical supplies arrived just as the plague outbreak peaked. Zara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with command. This wasn't the rigid hierarchy of the old Council military, where every decision had to be approved by committee. This was something new, something that trusted its people to do the right thing even when no one was watching. "Ma'am," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Cross." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Nathan Cross, the man who had become the unofficial leader of humanity's scattered fleets. Behind him, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, beautiful and terrible and infinite. "Zara, we've received requests from 47 different systems. Colony ships seeking safe passage, mining stations requesting protection, research vessels, wanting to explore the restricted zones. They're not asking for the Council's permission anymore. They're asking for ours. Zara understood the implication. The galaxy was choosing sides, and they were choosing the side that acted rather than debated, that protected rather than politicized, that remembered the difference between civilization and bureaucracy. "What are your orders, sir?" Cross smiled, the expression transforming his scarred features. "The same orders I've been giving for 30 years. Do what's right. Help who needs helping. And don't let the bastards grind you down." It wasn't much of a charter for a new galactic order. Number. Constitution, no formal treaties, no elaborate legal framework. Just a simple understanding that the strong should protect the weak, that no one should be left behind, and that sometimes the right thing to do was also the dangerous thing to do. As the Harmony set course for the Outer Rim, where pirates had been raiding merchant vessels with impunity, Zara reflected on how much had changed. The old council had tried to rule the galaxy through fear, through the careful balance of power and the threat of economic sanctions. But the new order was built on something else entirely. The radical idea that people could be trusted to do good if given the chance. The galaxy was finally learning what humanity had always known. Heroes weren't born from committees or created by bureaucrats. They were forged in the darkness between stars, by people who saw a problem and decided to fix it, regardless of the consequences. And in the depths of space, where the light of distant suns painted the void in shades of gold and crimson, the future was being written by those who had stopped asking permission to help.